Here we are. Hello, everyone. Hey, Jace, you want to come say hi? Are you saying bye again? Hi. He does say hi. He just, for some reason, every time I'm in here, he wants to say bye. He wants you all to go away again. So, by the way, if you're new to my lives and you're watching this in replay, just know that I come on about 10 minutes early to give people time to filter into the actual live feed. But if you're wanting to get straight to the topic, just kind of run that in about 10 minutes. And yeah, I should be on topic right about then. And today is one of those random, it's kind of like my Monday this and that's, but they tend to go a little longer. Where my Monday this and that's, I try to keep them between 15 and 20 minutes, touching on a few topics, answering a few questions, and leading you back to some videos. I do a similar thing in the live when I do the random. I'm calling it Rain Country Randomness or whatever the name of it is. And so, because it does go a little differently and it does go a little bit longer, and we've kind of got audience participation, then, it just is different. And that's just how it is. And I enjoy it. I enjoy doing both. But also know that if this isn't for you, the live thing and these long, at least hour-long shows, know that I do take these lives once I'm able to download them, which is usually not until 24 hours later. I download them and then I edit them and add little clips and photos and whatnot, and try to get it down to somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes. And then I schedule those to publish 6 weeks out, just like the rest of my scheduled videos, where my Monday this and that videos are more current. They're only like typically about a 3-day difference. Though I did have a couple weeks where I had to shoot them a whole week early because of the constant schedule changing and the grandbabies. And guess what? Speaking of grandbabies, yesterday I had all four of them for the first time, all at once for about 4 hours. No, it was closer to 5 hours. That was interesting. I was nervous. I've watched Kyra, the youngest, before, but I've watched her on days where I only had Jax and Jace, or no, excuse me, Rowan and Jace, because Jax was off doing other things. He was in a swimming thing for a little while. But this was the first time having all four of them, and I tell you, I was so nervous. I was kind of looking forward to it because I'm like, I think I can do this. My day is pretty well clear. I got, for now, my videos are all edited. Everything's kind of in place until tomorrow, which is today, obviously. And it went pretty good. There was a few moments where it was like, I was telling my sister, we talk on Marco Polo all the time. I say, so if you see me get on Marco Polo and you see that I'm bald, know that it didn't go well. No, but it was actually pretty good. Kyra's getting to a point where she's not as needy. She's not crawling yet, but she's rolling around. She can actually do some independent play for, entertain herself, but she does not like being left in the room alone. How old is Kyra now? 7 months? I think she's 7 months. And then Rowan is turning 3 on Sunday, on the 22nd. And then Jace is going to be 4 in May. He's the one that's here. And then Jackson is 5. So yeah, it was kind of a house full. And I know some of you are like, I know young moms that have like 8, 10 kids or whatever. First of all, I'm not young anymore. I'll be 60 on the 29th. So there's that. And I used to be a dance teacher. I used to have, as many as, 12 girls in the classroom at a time, sometimes more. And of all different ages, not all ages at once. I had them segregated out in different classes according to age. So like I'd have all the 3-year-olds, 3 to 4-year-olds in one class, and then 5 to 7-year-olds in another class, et cetera, et cetera. But still, that was only like usually about an hour at a time. So, yeah, but it went pretty good. And I think it's a good thing because Jace doesn't get around, being an only child, he doesn't get to get around other kids as often. And I think it's really important for him to be around his cousins, and he loves his cousins. And Jace and Jax played so well for the whole 4 hours. I don't think they fought once. Usually there's some kind of altercation, or 3 or 10, but they played so good together. Spent most of the time in here flying those little balsa wood airplanes you can get really cheap that Papa had bought for them, and playing foosball, and it was good. So that actually helped me taking care of Kyra and Rowan a lot easier. And Kyra, she's obviously she's at that age where she needs a little more attention. You got to give her a bottle and change her diaper. But Rowan is the one that is actually the biggest handful because that little girl has attitude. She is, I call her sassy pants, and she's just an itty bitty thing, but she's got a big attitude to make up for her small stature. Man, that girl and her attitude, she gets mad at her cousin or her brother. Man, she lets them know. And everybody in the neighborhood, I'm sure, knows too. Love the little ones. Never worry about them. Hope to participate, but snuggling little one and homeschool doesn't leave fingers free for chatting. I get it. I get it. So anyway, what I did today was Papa had the pool table covered up because he spent a lot of work several years ago. He bought the pool table used. He did several videos on this, setting it up, and then he bought new fabric and refelted the whole thing, put new bumpers, and he's a little picky about it, which I understand. And the grandbabies were getting kind of dirty with it, just getting a little messy. So he covered it up, but I'm like, Jace has to be able to keep himself busy. And so this actually works good. I can keep it covered up all week long. And on the days I go live, I can cover the foosball table, which is way more noise. And then he gets to roll the pool balls around, the billiards around on the table. He loves doing that. He just likes to roll them and see if he can make a pocket or knock another one in. It's working great right now. And Grandma has some homemade Rice Krispie treats with chia seed in them. You want some more Rice Krispie treats? I got them all ready for you if you want some. I'll set them here. Oh, here he comes. So yeah, I made some more of the organic Rice Krispie treats. So I use the Cascadian Farms, is it? Organic Rice Krispies and the Dandies marshmallows. Well, the Dandies marshmallows aren't organic, but they only use cane sugar. They don't use like high fructose corn syrup or anything like that. They're a little better. And then I throw some chia seeds. You can see maybe the light might be too bright. There's little black things in there, chia seeds, just to add a little bit of a health boost to them. So, okay, it's, we still got 2 minutes. According to this, we still have 2 minutes. So I'll wait a couple more minutes to give more people time to get in here. I see Gudrun's made it in. So yeah, they do grow so darn fast, just like those chicks over there. Man, I cannot believe. I can. What is this? My 4th or 5th time hatching out our own chicks. And we've bought chicks before, and it still shocks me how fast they develop in just a week. Their wing feathers, man. When they first hatch out, there's no feathers. There's just that little fluff on their wings, and all of a sudden they've got these wing feathers. So at that point, what I do in the little brooder that we made, I have a piece of an old lace tablecloth that I got from my mom's when she passed away, and I cover the whole top of that and then pin it in place. So, because they'll get up on that heat plate, and eventually they'll hop up onto the edge, and right. So I do that so that they can still get plenty of airflow and light coming in from the top, as well as the little window we put in the side. And Jace loves that window. The babies love that window because they can go in there. They can come in here and watch them chicks. And Jace, especially this year, is just so enthralled with him. Every so often, if I'm in the other room editing videos or something, he'll come grab my hand, want me to come get a chick out so he can pet it. So, hi, Deb. You actually made it in sooner than I had expected. So now it's actually time to get to the topics. So, hello, everyone. Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for another Rain Country randomness where I talk about several different topics, just touching on a few things, answering some questions, or maybe even going deeper in depth than I normally would on my Monday this and that videos. And also getting that interaction, like I was saying earlier, where we can discuss and I can read some comments and thoughts and ideas. And the first topic of today, which is the reason why I chose the thumbnail that you see, is about sugar. So we know, especially as Americans, and I'm sure people in the UK and Canada know that we tend to get way too much sugar, especially if people are buying packaged foods. And I think there's a few things though that we got to understand. That it's like everything is being demonized, including sugar, and I get it. I get it because as people, we have a tendency to just get too much sugar. But that doesn't mean that sugar in general should always be so heavily demonized. It God gave us sugar. He gave us it in a few different natural forms. Those forms would be cane sugar, okay, and maple syrup and honey, of course. Honey is spoken of many times in the Bible. But regardless of how you look at it, oh, and then the sugar in the fruit and so much more, date sugar and so on, coconut sugar. And so some people just see the word sugar as, oh, that's terrible. Now, I do understand there's people that need to go completely sugar free pretty much, and they have to cut all excess. They can't have honey, maple syrup, cane sugar, date sugar, coconut sugar, and they have to be careful of their fruit intake even. I get it. We're all having to deal with different things and we have to find what's best for us. But I guess the thing that bothers me is how because when I use sugar, what I call sugar, it's organic cane sugar. It's very minimally processed. And that's the other thing about the word. It's another one of those words that we use in such a way that it always sounds evil. Processed isn't a bad word when it comes to food because we hear about processed foods. Well, everything is processed to a degree. When you butcher an animal, you're processing that animal. You not might not be injecting it and doing this and doing that, but you're still processing the animal. When I am powdering up the eggs that I get from my own chickens that I dehydrate, I'm processing them. Okay. And cane sugar has different, you can have highly processed, is how it's processed, Tammy. Thank you. Exactly. You can have highly processed and you can have minimally processed. So some people think that maple syrup is just so much healthier and better for them than organic cane sugar. And it's because of that word sugar. But maple syrup is still sugar. And in fact, maple syrup can be crystallized and then it's called maple sugar. It's the same thing. It's just taking that extra step that's used with organic cane syrup. So cane sugar comes from the the chicks, man. Are you guys okay over there? It comes from the cane plant, the sugar cane plant that is God given. It is pressed out and made into a syrup. And a lot of times the molasses get separated from the syrup, and that's where you get molasses. And then that is then crystallized just like you would do with maple syrup. So there's very, very little difference. Now, when we're talking white sugar, oh, and by the way, organic cane sugar should still have some color to it. It should be in blonde in color. That means it still has some of the molasses and it's still going to have some of those minerals. Now, the least processed sugar you're going to get if you're buying it is raw honey. That's the least processed. Maple syrup and cane syrup are both boiled down and then crystallized. Well, this if it's you're using it as syrup, it's going to stay syrup. You can buy cane syrup and then um or it's then crystallized. And that's where you get the kind of sugar you typically are going to use in baked goods. So I just want to make this clear. If you think that, because I remember years ago when people were all like switching from sugar because it was given such a bad name to honey, but not realizing they're not thinking of the fact just because it's natural doesn't mean it's not still sugar. Yes, with the raw honey, you're going to get far more benefits than you're going to get from a sugar that's a little more processed because you're going to get more minerals and nutrients that get lost once it's heated. But generally in the end, if it's been heated, you're going to end up with pretty much the same product. So if you choose to make your caramel sauce, for instance, out of honey or maple syrup, in the end, over organic cane sugar, in the end, you're still ending up with pretty much the same amount of sugar. In fact, I was reading somewhere that maple syrup often can have higher sugar content, a lower glycemic level, but higher sugar than cane sugar. I thought that was interesting. It kind of surprised me. But you're cooking that. You've seen how, if you watch the caramel video, you've seen how it was cooked. So all the minerals will stay, but a lot of your other nutrients can still get cooked out. So there's very little difference. So I think we need, you know, if you're trying to just avoid sugar altogether, that's one thing. But don't replace or good organic cane sugar with honey or maple syrup and think that you're not getting sugar. You're still getting the sugar. But obviously if sugar isn't something you're completely cutting from your diet, there's a lot of great options. What you have to watch out for is the highly processed white sugar. So there's two different kinds. Now, when it comes to feeding the hummingbirds, this is the only thing I buy white cane sugar for. That is the hummingbirds, because you have to be careful about them getting too many minerals, because the minerals will build up in those tiny little bodies and can kill them. So you never feed them the organic cane sugar, maple sugar, molasses, none of that. You got to give them the right stuff. And this is why a white cane sugar matters. That's the only reason I even keep white cane sugar on hand. And then you have the worst offender of all is the white beet sugar that is very highly processed and bleached. And here's the problem with beet sugar. I have somebody that was following me. They probably quit following me because they got too angry with me about this one, because they grow sugar beets. Well, it sounds great because, sugar beets, there's another natural form of sugar. Yeah, it can be if you're growing organic non-GMO sugar beets. But the problem with sugar beets is that it is impossible now, pretty much impossible to get sugar beets that have not been genetically modified. In fact, several years ago, I thought I'm going to try growing the sugar beets. And so I bought some from Baker Creek, and they were organic, non-GMO. And I had planned on the following year to plant them. But after I got them, I don't know how much long later, it might have been a couple of months, Baker Creek sent me a letter with some money in it to refund me for the seeds that I purchased, which I thought was quite honorable of them to do, because they had found later, after selling a bunch of those, they did some testing on, because they do, at least back then, I don't know what they do anymore. I haven't bought from them since probably 2020 or before 2020. They tested the sugar beets and found they had been cross-contaminated with GMO. That's the problem with the sugar beets, is that now they've pretty much infected everything, all sugar beet crops. So that's why I don't use beet sugar. And also beet sugar, another good indicator, it's the cheapest one you can buy. If it just says white sugar, it's beet sugar. It's genetically modified beet sugar. And that's going to be the worst offender. Well, maybe I shouldn't say worst offender, because high fructose corn syrup, I'm not sure which one's worse. They're both bad. And those are the ones we have to be watching out for. And then, of course, obviously, watching our intake. So if you're just sitting around drinking maple syrup every day, you're going to be just as unhealthy as the person that sits around and eats spoonfuls of sugar all the time, every day. So I just wanted to cover that because I think there's a lot of misunderstandings about this. And because even the Bible tells us when it talks about honey, it praises honey quite a bit, but there's that one scripture, is it in Proverbs, where it talks about, eat the honey, but don't eat too much because you're gonna vomit. So it's so even the scripture tells us that, balance, you know, is important. And that applies to all our foods. So I really, really hate seeing everything be demonized, but without full understanding of what it is that we're consuming. If you like to make organic Rice Krispie treats every so often, I found that these aren't near as sweet. I didn't put any caramel sauce on them this time. They're not near as sweet as I use the same amounts too as the Rice Krispie treats I used to make with the cheaper marshmallows that have high fructose corn syrup in them years ago. And the kids still love them without even putting the extra sugar on them with the caramel sauce. They still love them, and putting those chia seeds in there. I think next time I'm going to try throwing a few other little healthy things in there. So let me see. I see somebody saying, I agree. I want to see what. Never use red food. Exactly. This is something that people also need to know. I think more and more people know this now, but the hummingbirds are going to find, if you ever really watch hummingbirds, if anything even somewhat resembles a flower, they will test it. They will test it. They don't have to have red to be able to, they don't have to see the color red. So never, never add the red food coloring. I just use the cane sugar. What is it? I use one part sugar to 4 parts water. And we have winter hummingbirds here. They tend to disappear from here once everything is bloomed, and then they get everything they want from like the peas and the beans and the honeysuckle, and then they go spend the rest of the summer somewhere else. Then they come back here in the fall because they know I still feed them. And they stay all winter long. It's funny because I used to think all hummingbirds migrated, and I thought, have our hummingbirds around here just become lazy because there's some of us that feed them? Then I found out that not all hummingbirds migrate. Not all of them do. I was kind of surprised to learn that. So anyway, is Proverbs 25:16 that one about the honey? I'm guessing so. Thanks, Deb. Um, buy the best you can afford and limit the excessive use. Exactly. Exactly. So you ate all of those Rice Krispie treats and you got signs of it on your face. He's got little Rice Krispie crumbs on his face. Well, this is pretty good. Does grandma make good Rice Krispie treats as healthy as I can make them? Doesn't mean you should be eating Rice Krispie treats all day long just because they're the healthier version either. All right, let's move on from that topic. Like I said, I wanted to throw that out there. Oh, well, I'm not going to move on quite yet. Let me see. I do use coconut sugar. I don't like it for all things. It has a much lower sweetness to it. And one thing to know is the darker the sugar, the more minerals you have in it. So if you're looking for more minerals, go for a darker sugar. Coconut sugar is an excellent option. You can get a good organic coconut sugar. I think As Your Standard sells some. I believe Anthony's Goods on Amazon. I think I have some of their coconut sugar. I just don't use it in a lot of things and everything. If when I do add any sugar to my homemade bread, it'll be the coconut sugar. But I haven't done that ever since I've been using my fermentation starter because there's always still some sugar content in the starter, so I don't bother adding any in there. But I like that. I just put a little bit in, and it's just a way to add more minerals to the bread. So, what are some other, I mentioned a date sugar. And then, of course, molasses. And then again, as I mentioned before, you can make your own brown sugar and make it as dark as you want by using the organic cane sugar and then some good quality organic molasses and then add as much in there as you want. So I see Tyler jumped in. You're sweet enough already, huh? I think I'm going to talk to Terry about that and see if she begs to differ. So, Tyler, you're a nice guy. We like having you around. See, I wonder how Rice Krispie treats would be with dried cranberries. Ooh. Now Patrick does like Rice Krispie treats, but he doesn't he doesn't like cranberries at all in any form. But that I do. I get those apple infused cranberries, dried cranberries from Azure Standard. Boy, those are the best. They're not cheap, but they are good. The kids like those quite a bit too. The best part of Tyler and Terry is Terry. Oh, you're sweet. See, you proved yourself. So let's give him the sweet reward. Ching. Whatever. No, that's money. That's money. Sorry, I'm not throwing money at you, Tyler. Forget that. Let's see. I recently found out about Yacon. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Never heard of it. Sugar. When looking for alternatives for my husband, it's quite tasty. I have tried. What's that one from India? It's a brown sugar. I think it's a cane sugar, but it starts with J. Not Jackery? Not Jackery. Is it Jackery? That's also a name of a power station. Anyway, that's pretty good. It has a nice caramel taste if you get the right one. So I bought some and I really liked the flavor of it. So I bought a bunch more. I don't remember if it was from a different company or the same one, and it didn't have that same flavor. And I kind of keep forgetting I have it. It just didn't have that same caramely flavor. And I was disappointed. Jaggery. There you go. Thank you. I knew it was something like that. I gotta be wrong. I gotta be saying it wrong. Dried blueberries, raisins, etc. Those are some really good ideas. Bug spit is good. Yeah, honey, or some people call it bug vomit, but no, it's not. No, it's not what it is. Yacon syrup. It's a prebiotic and very high in fiber. What was I reading? Another sugar that's a good prebiotic. Was it the maple syrup? What was it? I don't remember. Anyway, for reals, we're moving on from that topic. So, what's the next one? I picked out 5 things, and if Jace behaves, then maybe he's being really good today, aren't you, buddy? You gonna go play pool? No, you don't want to play with pool anymore? No. Okay, let's talk about some storage items to consider. And one of these is fuel storage. So I linked to a playlist in the description box where they're mostly Patrick's videos talking about I think there's a couple where he just talks about different types of fuel that we store and how he stores it, but he also has videos showing different individual videos on different storage tanks and whatnot he has for fuel. Like he has one for diesel, he has some for gas, I think, and then he has the fuel right or fill right, I think it is, set up on our GMC pickup, and then he has a separate tank. So I'm bringing this up for obvious reasons. What are you doing, buddy? Do you want to get that coloring book out of there? I don't have the crayons out. Hang on. Let me see if I can. Oh, the crayons are there. I'm trying to get that out. Hang on. There goes my light. Sorry, people. Sorry, people. We're I bonk him in the head with it. Trying to get it back up here. There we go. There we go. My beauty light. Just kidding. You want to play with those? So now my skirt's all hung up in the wheels. Great. I think I'm going to have to tear it to get it out. There we go. I heard it rip, but it's probably just ripping at the seams. I'm never buying plain cotton thread anymore because it just, after a little while, it tears too easily, but I have a ton of it. So I got to use it up. What was I saying? So anyway, I'd link to that, and I tell you, it's something he's been building on for quite a number of years. Whenever he finds a good tank on like Facebook Market that somebody's selling that's good for fuel, he'll buy it up. And I mean, there was one that he got that ended up being I can't remember whatever happened with that one, and that one was kind of a disappointment because it ended up having a hole in it that he tried repairing a few times, and I don't think he was ever able to fully get it fixed. However, having those tanks with the price of fuel going up and continuing to go up, before one of the last jumps, he went and topped off everything he could. So, having that extra tank, I can't remember how many gallons it is. Is it 100 gallons that's in the truck? And he has it, yeah, like I say, he's got videos on all this. And then he's got the pump. He's got his own little gas pump that's attached to it. So if he goes somewhere, he can use that. Let's say he's on a road trip or something, which he usually doesn't take the GMC for that. He'll take the car because it's cheaper on fuel. And he hasn't been on a road trip since his father passed away. But um, if he needs to, he'll fill that up. He'll go to the places where he can get the fuel for the best price. Like right now, it's the Tribe out here has the best price on fuel. And so he'll just fill everything up. And if he has to make a few trips to do it and then come back and, he'll use the fuel in his tank on the truck, fill a bunch of stuff up, a bunch of the tanks, and then go out and then fill that tank up again, as well as, of course, the tank in the truck itself. And it's really been a blessing having this setup because it can have you better prepared to get through the difficult times of the high costs of fuel. And you cycle through it. Obviously, you're not just going to not use it and let it sit in storage like you would other things. And then, we have several gas tanks here, the 5-gallon gas tanks. We have several of them for gas and several of them for diesel, and we try to keep those all topped off as well. And so it is something to consider. It's not like I expect everybody to run out, especially right now, and buy a bunch of tanks. It's just, again, it took Patrick several years of working on this and kind of building this, and finding the tanks and getting a good price on them. But it's just something I like to put out there so people can consider it. It's just like with anything else, you can build on something. Just like, filling up your pantry. You can build on that. You don't have to run out and buy, 2, 5, 10 years worth of freeze-dried foods and fill up your whatever and then never eat them. You learn how to can, you learn how to grow your own foods, and you start putting stuff up, even if it's just a little at a time. If you're not at a point where you can garden and can, then you start, even if you have to buy canned goods from the store, buy an extra can, buy an extra package of pasta or beans or noodles, or I already said pasta, rice is what I meant, and start putting that up just a little at a time. Just, if you can budget yourself even $2 a week for food storage, you can do that same thing with fuel. Of course, in that case, you're going to have to budget, $5,000 a week. Just kidding. I'm exaggerating. A little hyperbole there, but yeah, you might want oh, thanks, Deb. Yeah, that's that one where he made the cradle for that storage tank. I wonder if I linked to the right one because I should have linked to the full playlist if I did it right. Sometimes I click on the wrong thing and I end up linking to the first video in the playlist rather than the playlist itself. I hate it when that happens. See, a friend accepted a 1,000-gallon tank of diesel stored since Y2K. It was contaminated with algae and presumed fouled. He ran it through a set of filters 3 times and it came out clear. Awesome. Ah, that is wonderful. I mean, yeah, do what you can. And it's times like this why crazy people like us do what we do. It's why we have fuel storage. It's why we have water storage. It's why we collect water and we store it, the rainwater. It's, etc. It's why we have multiple ways to sources of light and heat and cooking. Well, maybe not multiple sources of heat, but multiple sources of cooking and lighting and ways to do things off grid for when times get hard and we have to. Or like I say all the time, you guys are probably sick and tired of hearing it. The 100 billion power outages we have out here every year. Again, hyperbole. It's not that many. But I swear we have at least 4 of the power outages a year that are done for their planned power outages for maintenance. And then there's all the many others that are going to be at least twice that much that happen whenever. Usually when you got a lot of rain to saturate the ground, rain country, right? And then a lot of wind because you got storms coming in. They usually happen in tandem. And so the wind and the saturated grounds blow the trees over onto the power lines. This is the most common thing that happens. And it's just what it's like living in rain country. You over there visiting with the chicks, buddy? Love some chicks. We have our own well and collect rainwater. Good. Good. Yeah, we've kind of considered, we don't really have room for a well here, but we've been considering options for other pieces of property. And then of course, Patrick bought that big old, he got it for a good price, that stainless steel milk tank. That's not what it's called. Dairy tank or something. A dairy farmer, they done with it. He was selling it really cheap and he thought that would be a great rainwater storage tank for our mountain piece. So he hasn't taken it up there yet. It's still down the road at our other piece here. But he got that, and then we've got that creek. So we would have, if we ever got ourselves, it's just taking so long with everything going on. If we ever got ourselves really set up out there, we would have the creek water, which he's still kind of, when he gets time, working on a way to sort of make some kind of water wheel so we could also get power from that, and then also hoping to set up some solar power and then have 2 sources of water, which would be the creek as well as the rainwater. That's kind of what we're looking at if it ever happens. If nothing else, it's a project that when Patrick isn't busy doing other things, he can work on it. It makes him happy. And, I think owning land is it can be a good investment if you're able to do it, even if you never do much with it. Yes, we're in Forks. I am in Longview, Washington. I live full-time in my RV. We have a huge tank that sits in the back of my husband's truck, and we are filled up. Excellent. Good. Pat's next birthday gift, a paddle. A paddle? What kind of paddle? See, you have the creek already. Yeah. Well, he's got this thing that he bought. He's done a couple videos on it that he got secondhand. It was a little more chintzy than he thought it would be, but he's done 2 or 3 videos where he's trying to work out the best way to get it set up as a water wheel. And the size of it is a good size for the creek that we have. But I always miss. Oh, good. You made it to the live. Good for you. Up the creek without a paddle. There we go. Okay. So, yeah. So I wanted to bring that up. And then going right along with that, which, I already kind of mentioned food storage. Well, I think that, from what I'm hearing, I listen to Zach every so often, from An American Homestead. And, he's talking about meat in the meat prices. And I know not everybody is set up to produce their own meat. Not everybody has a big enough farm or big enough piece of property where they can grow and produce their own meat. We have chickens. I've got I'm thinking maybe 4 cockerels in that box over there right now, and possibly more to come out of the next batch I have right here. Well, most likely at least another 4 out of the chickens back there, or the eggs that I have in the incubator. And at least we can do that. We can get eggs, so we've got that protein, and we can get the meat from the extra roosters that we will not need. So let them grow, get to a good enough size, process them, and put them in our freezer. But not everybody has the ability to do that, be it space, be it time, be it physical abilities. There's a lot of things that this is where I have a hard time with some people on YouTube, that they really push people and make them feel guilty for not having all these things. If you can do it, great, is wonderful, but not everybody can. We're all in different positions. We all live in different places, and not all of this stuff is possible. So we have to look at where you are at, what's going to work best for you in putting up meat when you can get a good price on it. Maybe you can barter for some uh, beef or chicken or whatever from somebody locally. And bartering is an important skill. To me, it seems funny to call it a skill because it's not hard to do, but some people see it as a skill because it's such it's such a lost art to a lot of people. But it's just like, hey, and it all depends on the cost, how you barter is like, what is it worth to you to get that, and what is it worth to them to get whatever skill or product you have to offer them. It's that simple. And it's all going to vary depending on the person. So I make my own homemade wine, and I do bottle some of it up to have it ready to barter, either give it as gifts, or to barter with. If anybody would ever be willing to barter, like somebody who are out, some of the avid fishermen. Pat doesn't have a lot of time to go fishing. He does when he can, and we have a lot of fish, but sometimes he doesn't, or some elk or some venison. If somebody's doing that on a regular basis, and maybe they'd be willing to barter that meat that they got for a bottle or two of wine. Um, Pound per pound, it's all going to depend on what's the value to them and what's the value to me. That's how it works. So, with that said, finding ways to get some meat for the best price you can, whether it be bartering it or buying it in bulk at whatever local store you can. Obviously, we're trying to look for real meat, and trying to look for meat that hasn't been injected full of a whole bunch of junk, and, you know, as naturally raised as possible, and then find ways to put it up for yourself. Freezing is the easiest, but we can't, as we know, don't always want to depend on our freezers unless we at least have 1 or 2 forms of backup power to keep them running. Canning meat is super easy. To me, it's one of the easiest things to do. You just put the meat in a jar, cut it up, skin it, whatever you got to do. Put it in a jar, add water if you feel like you need to. You don't always need to, and can it. 90 minutes per quart, 75 minutes for a pint. Typically, that's what it is for most of your meats, though fish and other types of seafood are going to be a minimum of, I think, 110. The 110? Is that right? Am I saying that right? But anyway, it's longer. You got that's if it's it doesn't matter what size it is. That's the thing with the fish. It doesn't matter if it's a pint, if it's a quart, if it's a half a pint, the time's the same no matter what, which I find is interesting when it comes to fish. So I still have several jars of salmon that I canned from that fishing trip Patrick did with his dad several years ago. And every so often I'll pull that out. I did can it in quarts because there was so much of it, but typically I only need to use half a quart at a time to make something like a tuna noodle casserole using salmon instead. and then I can dehydrate up the rest because it was processed in a pressure canner. I don't need to freeze it and then dehydrate it. I can just go right to the dehydrating, and it turns out crisp. Vacuum seal it into a jar, and then I can use it in a different meal down the road in the same way. Or even for making dips out of like a salmon, you cream cheese and salmon, you mix them together. That's the only time Patrick really seems to like cream cheese at all is if I make it like a dip like that, a salmon dip. Pressure canning, yes. Though for meat, if you can water bath can, people will say no, you can't, but people still do it today. Some people don't have access to pressure canners, and you got to remember pressure canners were invented to make the process quicker. So when it comes to canning meats, with water bath, you boil for 3 hours, and you can still find charts if you look that were printed in the 50s about how to water bath low acid foods. It's almost always 3 hours all the way across the board, maybe longer for seafood. But, but then they also recommend that you boil the food for 10 minutes after opening it just to ensure it's safe. But, anyway, I bet that is wonderful. Salmon patties are so yummy. I always say I'm gonna try to make salmon patties, and I forget. I've never made them. I don't know if I've ever had them, to be honest, which sounds crazy. Let's see. When we lived up there, we drove to Grays Harbor and bought tuna right off the boats. Nice. So you can do that here too. Not as often. There's not as many docks around here, like in Nia Bay. In fact, I think I might have shared this with you guys years ago, before I even heard of Forks, I spent a summer working in Nia Bay, which is right at the tip of Washington State, that tip right there on the peninsula. So you're surrounded by beach all the way around. I worked at a fish dock down there, and that made pretty good money for a 17-year-old. Was it 17 or 18? I think I was 17. Because you got paid by the pound, and some days you'd be there all day from early morning, from dawn until after dark, cleaning fish, and that was salmon, halibut, and cod. And you got paid more for the cod and the halibut because it was filleted and skinned, and then the salmon was just uh, gutted and cleaned. So we didn't get paid as much per pound, but you had a lot of salmon coming through, and it was pretty good money. But anyway, there are some docks around here that maybe still in the push, maybe, I think, where you can go get the tuna. I could be right. I haven't tried canning halibut yet. We have some different types of, I just call it whitefish, because when Patrick this last year got to go out fishing quite a bit with our fellowship group, the guys in the fellowship group, one has a good sized boat, and they go out there, and everybody kind of pitches in, and then they divide the fish up evenly. And it was mostly, I think, bass, cod. I don't know that there was any halibut in there. I don't think there was. I think that's deeper than cod. I think you have to go deep sea fishing, deeper sea fishing for the halibut. But anyway, there's like 3 different types of whitefish in there. And so I don't know. I'm just looking at the fillets because he brings home the fillets. I rinse them off and package them up, and they all kind of look the same to me. Obviously, if it's greenling, that's the one I'm like, oh, well, that's clearly greenling. I know that because of the color, definitely gives it away. Let's see. So let's see. Is that Kentucky has a lot of Asian carp? Is that what that is? KY? Yeah, Kentucky. Oh, does Gudrun have to go? Okay. See ya. Somebody asking about, do you have to cook the meat first? Like Gudrun says, I never do. I can it raw all the time. That's what makes it so easy. You do not have to cook it first because it's going to cook in the canning process. Consider it's going to be in there for, if you're doing a quart, 90 minutes at high pressure is going to cook. You'll be able to eat it straight out of the jar. And so I just like, if I'm canning a roast, like whether it be beef or I've canned venison and I think elk, just cut it up into chunks, stick it in the jar. I don't cook it first. So anyway, there's that. Oh, I just heard that. Sorry, I got distracted because I heard something. Boy, Jesus, being almost a little too quiet right now. He left the room, but thankfully he's being really well behaved. So, but yeah, any kind of meat you can get your hands on, canning, freezing, and dehydrating. Remember, if you're dehydrating meat that hasn't been pressure canned, then what you want to do is you want to cook it first, freeze it, then thaw it out just enough to put on your dehydrating trays, and then it'll dry up crisp and light and it rehydrates well. If you cook it and then dehydrate it without doing the freezing in between, it'll be very hard and chewy like jerky, which is fine too. It just won't have as many uses. When I make jerky, I use raw meat. I marinate it, and I typically do it on our wood stove. That's usually I only do jerky on the wood stove. And that's on top of the wood stove because it's going to dry faster than sitting next to it. And so it's important that it dries a little faster, right? But you can do that in your oven too, in your conventional oven. You can make jerky in your conventional oven. You can dehydrate in your conventional oven. I just wouldn't do delicate herbs in there because you can't get the heat low enough. But for meat and everything, it's great. First jerky I ever made was deer jerky, and I didn't have a dehydrator. I did it in my oven. Low heat, and it takes all day, but it turns out really good. So there's that. But then again, like I said, if you want it to turn out crisp and light so you can add it to casseroles and soups and it will rehydrate and not be chewy, then after it's cooked, freeze it, cut it up first. That'll be easier. Then freeze it, then just dehydrate it, either a dehydrator or oven. And then you can vacuum seal it into jars after that. Leave the fat on. If you're going to vacuum seal it, you don't have to worry about it. If you're doing ground meat, you don't have to freeze it. Just cook it up, dehydrate it. When it's ground, like ground beef, whatever, it does not need that extra step of freezing in between. Okay, so I know I say that a lot, but there's always somebody new that hasn't heard that little trick that I found out by accident of the cooking, freezing, then dehydrating. Okay, what was another thing? Okay, and so with that said, I want to talk about this next. I want to bring this up again because in our more modern years, especially after the invention of the pressure canner, people have been taught to be just scared to death of botulism right and left. Well, let me tell you, first and foremost, botulism is getting exposed to it, having it get into your home canned foods. It's actually extremely rare. And you would have to be super duper careless for this to happen. But even if you're careless, it's still going to be rare that it's going to happen. And the scare with botulism, unlike, let's say you lost a seal on a jar and it gets moldy in there, it spoils, it's bad. Whereas if botulism is in there and the jar gets a false seal on it, and you won't be able to taste, smell, or see it. You won't know. However, the first thing to understand is that it is so extremely rare that you are more likely. I looked these statistics up years ago, just looked them up, typed in random things to see what is it, what are your chances of being killed by a flying champagne cork? Surprisingly enough, when I compared that number to the number of people that would of your chances of getting botulism from home canned foods, on the recorded, right, on the is it the cdc.gov or whatever, one of those sites. It was a government website, and compared them to those numbers. And the government websites, when it comes to that, National Institutes of Home Food Preservation, all that, they're usually trying to scare you to death anyway. So When I compare the numbers, you are more likely to die from a flying champagne cork than you are from botulism in your home canned foods. In fact, getting botulism from home canned foods is far more rare than getting it from store bought foods or getting E. coli or salmonella from store bought foods. You're far more likely, far more likely to get sick from one of those from store bought contaminated foods than your own home preserved foods. So, though none of us wants to get botulism, because even if you don't die from it, you might feel like you want to. I've never been sick from it because, well, it's really rare. But I have twisted my ankle just stepping off my deck. Maybe I could have fallen and twisted my neck too. I mean, you're far more likely to die in a car accident. You're far more likely to get struck by lightning and killed. So when you understand first and foremost that it doesn't have to be this big scary boogeyman to scare it, to where you're just afraid to even consider home food preservation. In fact, with that said, you're far more likely to die or to get very, very sick from the toxins that are in the store-bought foods. The bagged salads, which I still like me a good bagged salad every now and then if I can find a good quality one that's more organic, but I try not to depend on that. Um, or the E. coli meats in the store, and you won't know about it until a recall's been made because somebody else got sick. You're or just the garbage that's being put into your foods that you buy at the store. You're far more likely to have health issues or that may eventually take your life from that kind of stuff than your own home preserved foods of things that were raised organically and healthy and you know exactly what's in them. Okay, so with all that said, there's one more thing I want to say in regards to botulism that a lot of people forget about, and likely don't even realize that botulism toxin, why does this sound familiar? Botulism toxin, Botox, is botulism toxin. And people are young people in their 20s are constantly injecting their face with the botulism toxin without one fear of that. Why is this being so heavily pushed and nobody's afraid of that? But we're afraid to can our own foods because we might kill our whole doggone family and friends or anybody that happens to walk by our house with the stuff canned in our house or maybe even look our way. This is something that annoys me so much. I'm not annoyed at the people that have been manipulated to be scared of that because they don't know. They have to learn. I'm annoyed at the people that want to fearmonger to the point where people are terrified to do something that's been done for centuries. And people did that water bath canning. When people got into canning, they were canning everything water bath canning. And I've got the charts to prove it. I have the charts to prove it, that it was normal. Even Ball had their own chart. They had, by this point, pressure canners were invented, but people were still water bath canning because not everybody could afford a pressure canner. And so they had side by side charts that, okay, here's the low acid. Well, they'd have all the foods from low acid to high acid foods. Here's the time frame for water bath canning. Here's the time frame for pressure canning. Meats, green beans, etc. If it was this big scary thing, why would they have a chart? And why is it the Amish are still doing it that way today? Why are people in the UK still doing it that way today? You know why they are? Because pressure canners are highly outrageously priced over there. if they can even buy one at all. And if they can, they usually have to order it from the US. And of course, shipping and all these VATs make it, again, outrageously overpriced. So they do what they got to do. Don't be afraid to reuse a good lid that's in good condition. Don't be afraid to reuse jars that are used to can products. Like I don't know when, I think I was in my 20s and living in the Seattle area. The last time I ever bought a store bought like ragu or something. But some people have those jars. What is it? There's another brand, Prego, and they reuse those jars for canning. It used to be mayonnaise. Kraft mayonnaise was sold in regular mouth jars that were good for canning. And people have been doing that for years, but now, oh, don't dare do that. You're going to die. You will die if you can in something that is not specifically a canning jar, labeled as a canning jar, such as Ball or Kerr or even Superb for that matter. So just sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But you also got to make the choice that makes you feel most comfortable. If you are one to give in to all the fear mongering, then do what you think is best. Listen to the channels that only believe in one way of doing things and do it their way. I'm not going to badmouth you or them for that. Okay? Because you want to feel comfortable with the food that you've put up. So, anyway, there's that. How long have I been going? Whew, already been on here for an hour. And that's with me coming on 10 minutes early, of course. So, okay, one more thing. Okay, one more thing. Let's talk about another word that's constantly used incorrectly. And I think did I say this in Monday's video? I think I said this in Monday's video where I was talking about baking soda, synthetic versus natural. One thing I've come to realize in more recent years is that the word synthetic, we often use it incorrectly. Now, synthetic does not always mean unnatural. It just might mean that it was done in a lab using natural means. And I was kind of surprised when I realized, actually, I would say more in the last few months, I'm starting to understand the use of the word synthetic. And sometimes it's another one of those things that gets used to promote or to badmouth another product so that they can promote their own. So Bob's Red Mill as opposed to Arm & Hammer. And again, people got to make their own choice. And I will say this, let me come back to this. Somebody in comments under that said that they get the Arm & Hammer for cleaning and all that, but they get the Bob's Red Mill because they say the flavor of it's better. And I found that as your standard, I believe when I was looking, they have it. I'm going to try it. I ordered some to try it, that they have some they're mined from two different natural things. I don't remember the name, but they're both mined naturally, but from two different elements and produced differently. Bob's Red Mill and the like have less involved in the processing, but it's still natural. The way it's done and what's used, it's labeled synthetic because it's done in a lab. So when you understand this, it's just like the thing with the sugar and the word processed. I process stuff at home all the time. Doesn't mean it's bad. Synthetic, I could be synthetically making something because I didn't just take it straight from nature. And this is what we have to understand. Synthetic doesn't always mean artificial. And that's why I wanted to touch on that again. So when you're looking at some of these different things, look more deeply into it to understand it. If that's really important, then understand, okay, how is this actually made? Obviously, I don't want lab grown meat. It could be natural, but to me, that's far more unnatural and far more synthetic than buying Arm & Hammer baking soda. because the end product of the Arm& Hammer and it's still pure 100% sodium bicarbonate without the added aluminum. If you don't like the way someone else does it, just move on. We don't need your opinion about why we're wrong. Just do it right. Yeah, just do it how you want to do it. Because yes, I've had people get mad and scream at. Well, I say scream at me. It's in text, but when it's in all caps, you kind of feel like you're being screamed at. Though, with that said, there are people that type in all caps all the time because they can see it better because their eyes are bad. I know people that do that. But sometimes you have to I have to stop and go, "Okay, this person's yelling at me. Wait, let me read what they're saying." Oh, no, they're probably just typing in all caps because it's easier to see. And I get it these days. I really get it. Strychnine is natural. So is opium. So is what is it? Cyanide. People freak out about cyanide because it's in apple seeds and it's in peach kernels. Yet, did you know that a certain amount of that is actually not? It actually has benefits when you're getting it from the natural form, the apple seeds and the peach kernels. I'm not actually supposed to talk about this, so I'll probably get in trouble. It's about the amount. It's just like the sugar. It's about the amount. So if you eat a whole apple, it's not seeds and all. I do that a lot. It's not going to kill you. It's such a small amount and it's not actually cyanide in the apples. It's a amygdalin. That's what's in there. But what happens is when it hits the digestive juices, that's when it turns to cyanide. Okay. But so it's kind of understanding some of these and the amounts. Do I think that people should fill a bowl full of apple seeds or peach kernels and just eat it? No. No. Don't do that. But if you're eating the whole peach, you're eating the whole apple. Well, I should say the whole peach. It's not like you can eat the outer part, the pit. That would be hard. But I've had people freak out when they see me put cores, the apple cores when I'm making apple vinegar or putting in the peach pits when I'm making peach vinegar. Oh, you're going to die. Come on, people. First of all, you have to actually chew them up and swallow them. And when they're in a whole form like that, if you were to swallow a whole apple seed, it's just going to go through you. It's not going to hurt you. And on top of the fact that the amount that would be in there, even if it did leach out of the seeds into the vinegar, it's so minimal. It's nothing to fear. Again, we've just been conditioned to be afraid of whatever they say. And it's a matter of doing our own research. And me too. Me too. I fall for stuff all the time still. And then I get mad at myself and I'm like, why didn't I look deeper into that? Because I'll say something and then someone will correct me and I'm like, oh, I'm a moron still. I try not to be a moron, but sometimes I still am. See, my mom used to use the Miracle Whip bottles for Miracle Whip bottles. Bottles. Oh, Miracle Whip. Oh. Okay, never mind. I don't know why. I saw Miracle Whip and I had in my head, I can't even think of the name of it. The artificial whip topping that's really bad for you. But my brain, probably because I never liked Miracle Whip and never bought it. But anyway, because Miracle Whip, I believe, was probably the same. The jars were probably the same as the Kraft mayonnaise. Or, well, on this side of the States is Kraft, on the other side is Hellman's. It's the same brand, really, but they just have different. Why? I don't know. Using mail jars for canning doesn't work. They're yeah, you can't do that anymore because they're all plastic now. But back when I was still, before I started making, I was still buying mayonnaise. I was buying mayonnaise when it was still in glass jars, and then eventually they came out with plastic. I actually still have a couple of glass mayonnaise jars around here too. I use them for other things. But yeah, you can't can in the new stuff because it's all plastic now. So obviously, when you start making your own mayonnaise and realize how easy it is, especially if you have your own chicken's eggs, to use. And, you know, like I do not like, I tried the first time I tried making mayonnaise, I did it with just all olive oil. I hated it. It was horrible. The, the olive oil, just straight olive oil, just no. So I like to do a blend of avocado oil because it has a very, very mild flavor. And then I like using the refined coconut oil in there too because it also helps it set up a little better and get a firmer consistency. Cool Whip, thank you. That's why I was thinking of Cool Whip. Crazy. But so what do I do? Do I do a half and half? I think I do about a 50-50 blend of the two. And melting the coconut oil, of course, and mixing it with the avocado oil. And then, yeah. And it only takes about 5 minutes. We got all natural homemade mayonnaise that doesn't have all that added stuff. You just will find out it's smoother and a little more, it's not as thick as the stuff you buy in the store because that stuff you buy in the store, I don't even remember mayonnaise back in the day being so gelatinous the way it is now. Because what was it? Not too long ago, I was somewhere, it could have been a year or two ago, but somewhere where somebody had that jarred mayonnaise, and you're just like, what is this? It's like Jello because they add a whole bunch of garbage to it, and it's not even the good kind. It's not like they're even using bovine gelatin or something. They add nasty stuff to it to make it thicken up, like carrageenan or something like that. Stuff that you shouldn't be consuming. I don't remember. I could be wrong. And I know the carrageenan thing is something that they're realizing this is a bad product. It's bad for people's guts. And so some companies are not using it anymore. So we used to be able to leave mail out on the counter or in the cabinet. Is that the store-bought stuff? If so, that would be because there's a lot of preservatives. I wouldn't do that with the homemade. Though it can last a lot longer in the fridge than you think. I think it's the added vinegar that helps to preserve it and the salt. So we have an obscure brand of mayo that's really good and only has 3 ingredients: egg, oil, vinegar. There you go. I add a little bit of onion powder and garlic powder, just a little, um, and salt, a little bit, and mustard. Yeah, yellow mustard. I used to have a mustard powder that didn't taste like it was like yellow mustard. I can't find that anymore. Now, every time I find a good organic mustard powder, it's the type that tastes like the Grey Poupon kind. It might be yellow, but it still has that taste, and Patrick does not like that taste. I don't mind it. He does not like it. So what I do now is I use like I have the yellow mustard organic that I got from Azure Standard, but it's not a powder, and I just put a little squirt of that in there. Yeah, or a teaspoon, or not is it a teaspoon? Maybe about a teaspoon. Yeah. So I kind of think that was all my points. And I probably should get off here. His mom's actually might be getting off work pretty soon anyway. She's not working as many. It was kind of an extra, getting some extra hours in today, which is good because she was sick for a couple days and she doesn't get sick leave or anything. She doesn't have any kind of paid nothing. So, in fact, they won't even let her earn sick leave unless she buys their very expensive health insurance to a store. I've never heard of that before. But anyway, I do have video coming out in a few weeks about Dr. Jacobs again, an update. I still like to buy their Castile soap, even though I make my own soap. I use them both. But they asked me the other day if I wanted to try some of their new products. So they had some body butters. This one is almond. I love the smell of it, but it's a little, when you first smell it, it's almost overpowering almond. But then once you put it on your hands, and rub it in, the scent mellows out and it just smells really nice. And it feels really good too. So I thought I'd try a couple. I got sandalwood for Patrick and the almond for me. And then I decided to also try some of their bar soap just to try it. And I've been using one of them. Really, really like it. What was it? The Coco Loco Limeade or something. It smells pretty good. But I've even been using it to wash my hair just out of curiosity to see, how gentle it is. And it's actually worked pretty good. So my Dr. Jacobs link is always in the description box if you're curious about it. Now I probably wouldn't keep buying the because I make my own skin cream, obviously, and I make my own bar soaps, but I will keep getting their liquid, their Castile soaps, and my favorites are their black African ones. And that is there's three I really like: the Central Manoy, the Oriental Oud, and the Clary Sage Lavender. It doesn't sound by the name like it would smell that great. Oh, it's wonderful. So, okay, yeah, his mom's getting off work here pretty soon, so I should probably close it up. But anyway, just if you're curious, like I said, I have a review video. Oh, I also tried one of their dog shampoos, but since we don't have our little Cody anymore, I tried it on my hair and it didn't dry my hair out. It smelled really nice. And then I gave it to my son so he could use it on Luna. So that one was, last I looked, it wasn't there. It was weird too, but that one's, it smelled super good. It was like coconut. What was it? Coconut vanilla. Oh, smelled really, really good. So anyway, I should get going so I can be off of here when his mom gets here. We're not getting interrupted. And anyway, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And excuse me. Now he's starting to get wound up. Good timing, though. And thanks for coming in and spending some time chatting with me and sharing your thoughts and ideas. Really enjoy this time together. And don't forget the playlist link. I'll be putting in the description box down below and any other links if I think to add them later on. And thanks for coming in. Take care. And God bless. Now I got to remember again, how do I do the end stream? Oh, yeah, it's up here. Oh, he's standing by. Come here, buddy. Oh, let's get you over here. Oh, can't see him. There we go. Say bye.
Bye.
See y'all. Love ya.
Bye.